Okay, I think everything arrived this week. Really just two anime things, one of which clearly arrived because it was the right stuffing, and the other two things here are actually Static Shock. And the other two packages, like I think these top two packages are both Static Shock. I'm not too familiar with it. I just know it's a DC animated universe. So I am planning to, here we go. So I bought these because me and my friend are getting close to the end of Superman. So let's see, that's third, first, second. So if we go like this, you can see the first, the second, the third, and the fourth season, which I think is all of them. I haven't checked if that's the actual seasons, but I also got Superman Braniac Attacks, which based on the advertisements doesn't look super great per se, but that's okay. I'll figure that out. But let's get into the anime. Looking in these two. And then for this one, it always makes sense to just get the scissor. I completely missed the central area thing there. And let's see if I can. Yeah, I'm having trouble with that. I'll brute force the last of that. Oof. Yeah, this one is the one I'm actually looking the most forward to. Let's see, that's a receipt. Oh, but that has that taped to it, so let's hold on. Take that out, take a quick look at that. That's a Moon Eternal Makeup, and then Viz Media. Sailor Moon Stars. Yeah, so that's what this is. It's the first part. Sailor Moon Stars. Sailor Moon Sailor Stars. 96-page booklet. And part of the reason I'm looking forward to this is I don't remember a whole lot of Sailor Moon stuff. I don't remember Stars are like definitely better, but I kind of remember really liking Stars. Kind of really liking the opening, especially. Like, it might be my second favorite compared to the first opening. And when it comes to, so if you're not familiar with the history of Sailor Moon, maybe you're so of course as a series, and this is the old Sailor Moon series and not the newer Crystal one, you may be familiar with maybe some of the controversy in terms of it being an early dub and having a lot of stuff censored. Now, the sorts of things censored aren't like, oh, boobies or underpants, although there may have been some certain screenshots. See, disc 1, disc 2, and disc 3. No, instead it was more like, oh, well, we're going to make this for kids, so the fact that Zoisite likes this other guy that was one of the bad guys, well, that just would be admitting gay stuff exists, so we can't do that, so we're going to pretend that didn't happen. I kind of remember this one being epic too. I do not remember the bad guys completely, but so season 1 they turned Zoisite into a girl in the English dub, or in the first English dub, in order to kind of hide that thing. In season 3, when they introduced Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune, and they were clearly more than just buddy-buddy, they decided we have to come up with a reason for them to be close so that people don't think that lesbianism is okay or something like that. So they pretended they were cousins, but since of course they were still acting, you know, a little more buddy-buddy, it was maybe more awkward. So season 5 I've always been a fan of, just because at a minimum this one's harder for them to do that too. Because basically, I mean, you kind of saw them on the back here, the Sailor Starlights. I mean, this is pretty obvious early on, but they're basically, when they're not transformed, they're a boy band. When they are transformed, they are actually magical girls, so I think they change gender when they transform. But that's complicated because if they accept that, then basically if they're trying to make it where they don't change genders or something like that, they have to accept them being guys that dress in drag. So that kind of suggests, okay, if they're going to keep this consistent, they're going to be girls that dress as guys, because that's usually more socially acceptable, right? Oh wait, except that main character and Schlur, him, her, them, they kind of have a almost romantic kind of thing going on throughout most of the series. And so you either have either girl on girl iffiness, or you have guys transforming into girls and drag, and yeah, you know, it's kind of fun. Over here we have One Piece Nebulandia, Adventure of Nebulandia. I noticed what's his face from the Foxy Pirates. Trying to think if I immediately recognize anybody else, but I'm not looking too closely because for the most part, I think this is beyond the part that's come out on DVD Blu-ray, the TV series. Like, I think I've heard that I probably don't watch this. In fact, that other one I could watch, which takes place during a time skip, a time jump, well, me and my friend haven't made very fast progress on anything at all. And I guess I'll be talking about that a little bit later. TV special. We got a Blu-ray, we got a DVD. Oh, and a picture. A sideways picture. Which is pretty much this, but bigger. But anyways, we're obviously falling behind on One Piece and our watches in general, just because we haven't been watching stuff. But next up we have Basquash. I'm just making sure there isn't another DVD version there. There wouldn't be. Well, this is made in Japan, so I don't know. That's a snake or dragon. This looks, you know, that guy obviously has a basketball, so it looks basketball-y. And there's another basketball there and some shoes there, so I'm not crossing this. The dystopian sports drama that proves giant robots can dunk. Okay, that sounds amusing. That said, you know, given how quickly I'm going through all of my backlog, y'all can probably guess how many millennia it'll probably be before I... Since that's a region A, that's 26 episodes on 3 discs. Japanese with English subtitles. Maybe Season 1 clean opening, Season 1 clean closing. Does it say Season 1 on it? It says complete collection. That says 26 episodes on 3 discs. And that's a 1. That's a 2. Oh no, that's a 2. Did I show 1 correctly? Yes. So then that's a 3. Interesting. Next up we have the complete series of Love Tyrant. This would probably be a good candidate for just put it on because it's a potential background thing. So you got a little sexy ankle there if that's something you're into. And we're going to look on the back. Ooh, regions A and B. And that looks like English with Japanese subtitles. This is Blu-ray plus digital. Special features. Textless opening and ending songs. 12 uncut episodes. One curious looking series. You know, basically this looks like your standard harem rom-com sort of thing. It might not be standard. You know, that's kind of why I like exploring things, because worst case, it's kind of mindless drivel and you can just kind of ignore it. So that generally tends to mean that you don't have to think about them too much sometimes. Although I say that, but then, you know, they throw 3 or 4 characters in there that I just don't like, and then I have to say I have to tolerate watching them be assholes to each other or something weird like that. But I'm curious. And then last but not least, we have Modest Heroes on Blu-ray and DVD from the creators of Mary and the Witch's Flower, which I've put off watching. I see region A there. Bonus features. The modest heroes of Studio Ponok film completion press conference, Japanese cast interviews, art gallery trailers and TV spots. It's all nice. I'm looking for anything that suggests definitely English dubbed or Japanese with English subtitles. And nothing jumps out, but the fact that Shout Factory has a hand in working on this makes me think it's possible. But, oof. Oh, well, the important thing is I get this out of its plastic cage. And you better believe it is not wanting to come out of there. There we go. This one's on DVD and Blu-ray, which have, you know, like slightly different images. And then we've got a nice scenic backdrop. Well, there we go. Here's this week's anime DVD collection update. Well, I guess I never watched any anime this past week. There was definitely a lot of different priorities. Like, I showed the new computer from last time, and my intention was to pull the old one out here, put the new one in there, install stuff, and that was a higher priority than watching anything per se. So the fact that it took me a while to get to that should show just how little energy I had to do anything, including watching stuff. So, ended up spending a lot of time doing that, and then of course Sunday was Father's Day, and the priority there was to make sure both on Saturday that I was well rested, and then on Sunday that you know, I went up to my parents' house and I took my dad to a trampoline park, which, as you can see, I'm not really built for doing that for more than 5 minutes, so the fact that I was there for 2 hours should be a pretty good indication of the complete lack of energy after that. And then Monday's priority was a Mario free play session after work, where I try to help run that sort of stuff. I'm on the gaming committee, and I try to, you know, give gaming opportunities to my fellow coworkers, whatever form that comes in. I definitely prefer the console stuff myself. Dabble a little bit in tabletop gaming, but you know, if they do a D&D session, then I will help show up. I will help organize the die and set up the tables and whatever they need in order to do that. You know, just little things, if it's not big things like bringing a console and dressing up as Mario for an entire day. So, what did I do? Well, I did watch some Superman the Animated Series. We're getting closer and closer to the end of it, and it's entertaining. There was definitely a couple of entertaining moments, which just kind of reminds you of how much the people of the Superman movies kind of need to take a couple steps back and get some inspiration from the animated stuff, because, you know, they kind of forget, okay, if Superman has superpowers, then you can't have his superpowers necessarily be a source of conflict or something like that, unless you're clever about it. But the problem is, you know, all the simple stuff is what people have to go through first. So, you know, they're going to reboot Superman again. Who knows how many years it's going to be, but they're going to reboot it again. And the bad guy is probably going to be Lex Luthor, and they're probably, the conflict is going to be, oh, and he discovered that Superman is weak to kryptonite. And it probably won't even be something the way the TV series did it, where it was kind of interesting how it was more incidental that people started discovering that, and even Superman himself started discovering that. You know, the animated series is pretty good, but yeah, people won't do that. So, outside of that, what else was there? Well, I did watch Dark Phoenix with my friend. I think it was called Dark Phoenix. The ticket says Phoenix, and I'm pretty sure the movie said Dark Phoenix. And the reason I kind of go back and forth on that is because I never paid too close attention, because I just knew it was, oh, Phoenix-related stuff. And how would I summarize the movie? Surprisingly more watchable than I was afraid it would be. But that pretty much means that maybe it felt better than X3, which is setting the bar pretty low, I know. And I could even be mistaken about that. Rewatches might not be kind to it. See, I knew it was going to bring up a stupid thing where it's like, oh, well, we should be called the X-Women because it seems the girls are always saving everything. It's like, do you not remember 2 movies ago when it was you know, a guy trying to save you from doing something stupid. You know, it's not like it's one way or the other, so why did this character suddenly become so stupid? And I'll comment more on that later. Because, you know, this movie also had the problem of, oh, well, the Phoenix entity is actually a space-dwelling entity that does end up inside Jean Grey, you know, like the canonical comic stuff. But, oh wait, at the end of the previous movie, the Phoenix stuff kind of sort of burst to life a little bit to finish off Apocalypse, so it's not even consistent with the fucking previous movie in the series. And probably the worst thing to actually level at it is there was no Quicksilver scene. You know, the previous two movies, they had mind-boggling Quicksilver scenes. And maybe they couldn't think of one, or maybe more likely, I think if I were to try to summarize the movie, even though it's kind of all that stuff, it is a bit of a mess, and I think the way to characterize the messiness of it is this is just Fox's final Marvel X-Men movie. Because, you know, they've been purchased by Disney, so at this point, Disney's, you know, making sure that Marvel Studios, who keep kicking out blockbuster after blockbuster, and even when it's something like Captain Marvel, people still enjoy it to some degree. Now, I still haven't seen Captain Marvel myself. I'm aware of some of the problems with it. It's just, for most people, when they're like, well, I still found it to be a pretty mediocre Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, and that just kind of means it's probably, even if it's the worst Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, which I haven't heard people say, but I wouldn't be surprised if people thought it, that's still a pretty high bar. It could still be a very watchable movie, I guess. And I'm saying all that, what am I trying to say with all that? Basically, Marvel seems to know what they need to do in order to make entertaining movies. And I guess that's the way my friend put it, is this movie they didn't know. That's the problem he's had with other movies that try to interject politics or certain ideas in there, is they tend to lose focus on what makes the movie fun, and they don't care because they're focused on something else. And this movie didn't feel like that, because a whole lot of that stuff seemed to get resolved early on, and then it was just kind of in this constant phase afterwards, where I can't help but think that there was maybe some ideas in there, and it was maybe sort of being polished towards some of those, but at the end of the day, it wasn't there. And I think the best example of this, if you watched the movie, Jean Grey had a final line which could have easily been constructed into a good final line if they had made the movie about that. Because it was almost close to being able to be about that, but it's never really brought up. It's not a major point of contention, and so it would have been a good character growth moment for Jean Grey at the very end there if they had paid attention to that stuff. And there's all these little things sort of like that that are problems with it. If there's anything that's a problem with it that isn't that, I would actually say it's the characters are not written very well. Like, it seems like whoever did the writing for this wrote a bunch of assholes, and that's part of the problem with all of it. It's like, some of these characters shouldn't be assholes in that way or this way, or what they're saying makes no sense. It's like they're not talking about their own universe, or this isn't the kind of characterization you should be seeing with this. Like, some of the problem, I think one of the examples, like Professor Xavier, where it's like they didn't write a caring old man, which is kind of what Professor Xavier always is portrayed as growing into. Patrick Stewart kind of came off as this really caring guy that you're like, yeah, I wish I had a grandpa like that. And that's what made Logan interesting, was because the evolution of his character there seemed natural. He was just suffering from dementia, and he was a nuclear-grade powered mutant who was, you know, just losing control. And they didn't make it where he lost that edge. They made it where that edge just kind of vanished into that place that dementia patients disappear into, and that works because that's neat. But with this one, they kind of had to set up that they had to have a Professor Xavier with an ego and unwilling to face reality, and I think part of the problems is the actor they choose for Professor Xavier. They don't want to make him grow up. They want conflict that comes from him needing to learn about this stuff, even though by this point he should be good, and the movie has parts in there where he says some really great things to a young Jean Grey in a flashback, as an example. And we needed more of that. And one of the biggest missed points they had here was this idea of, oh, the X-Men are beloved by the world because they come out in times when nobody else would be able to do anything to save people. And there's this contention that doesn't need to be there inside about, why are we doing this? Because all they're saying is, no, it's just for survival. Just had to make sure that wasn't the front gate. Anyways, the truth of the matter is they are kind of like firefighters, and it should be kind of tried to be portrayed that way, not just more us versus them. We need a wiser Xavier who's like, we have powers that allow us to do these things for other people, and the reason I train you is to help you help everybody. So it's not about mutants versus humans. It's about mutants are just humans who are better at doing those things that mutants do. And one of the best things you can do is be a fucking hero and, you know, help people, save people during and nobody seems to get it or understand. And it's not even just like certain people that don't seem to understand. It's like nobody seems to understand it. And the movie it doesn't even try to pretend that anybody understands it, because it's also very quick to completely change gears. And so first the entire world loves them, and now the entire world not only instantly hates them, but oh wait, there's already a Mutant Registration Act program in place, and prisons. It's like it turns around way too fast. And the worst part about all this stuff is you got that conflict and the conflict with Jean Grey, which could have been a really good internal conflict, but they didn't want to focus on that. But then you have the bad guy aliens, and at first they just sort of happen and you don't know what to think about them. It's really interesting because when they introduced one of them, it's like the husband there, it's like, geez, they really are only writing assholes in this movie, aren't they? Because like the way he says stuff is unnecessarily asshole-ish. But then, you know, it's like, okay, now the aliens are here and somehow they're related to the Phoenix Force stuff. And talk about a confusing mess, because their motivations are never really solidified. At best, they're like, yeah, they're aliens, they're narcissistic sociopaths with no emotions who have this one goal in mind, and oh yeah, they're just gonna kill everybody. It does make it clear why they would just kill everybody if they were able to control the Phoenix. It just sort of says, yeah, they're bad guys, they're gonna do that. And they say something that's maybe supposed to be kind of a hint as to their history with it, but it doesn't explain why they are the way they are, especially when it comes to final conflict and they all reveal their superpowers, which is running at you like a fucking zombie. It's weird. I mean, we know that they have like strength that's much greater than that of a human, but they're just continuously running towards everybody like mindless zombies at every point in time during the final conflict, and that's pretty much all they're able to do is just be big numbers of very strong things running at you. It's like it's not even a missed opportunity. It's a, what the fuck is going on here? Why is this even a part of the focus? They could have actually done a real good job of like either cutting that out or maybe introducing something along similar lines to pass on information. But whether or not they needed to pass on information is hard to say.
And as you can see, this all these descriptions of it pretty much boil down to it feels like this was not polished into a final movie from a storytelling perspective. Like, I mean, the action has neat parts, you know, you're like, oh yes, I like to see Magneto do this. And, you know, there were some neat Magneto scenes, and I like to see Jean Grey do this. And surprisingly, I actually found that Scott Summers was a little more enjoyable to watch than usual. Where that's a real problem they've had with Cyclops is, I mean, even when I think back to the X-Men animated series days, it's like he's the leader, and that's pretty much all he is, and it feels like it's kind of hard to make an enjoyable character. It's almost like a Superman problem. And in the animated movies, I kind of feel like maybe he's no different. He's always just Jean Grey's husband or boyfriend or the leader, and he just zaps. And I should go back and rewatch some of that stuff to see if there's some good action that I'm like, oh, this feels kind of good. But some of the action-y stuff he did in here felt good, and they shut down some of the traditional Cyclops stuff, I guess. So overall, you know, it's a mess. There's little things in there that are pluses. I would still wonder why somebody would like this. Maybe if they said that they didn't hate it, that was different. But it kind of felt like you didn't get character motivations. Like, none of that stuff was strung together very well. So anyways, I don't know what my plan for this week is in terms of watching stuff, doing stuff. All I know is it's a little jagged. I guess one thing that makes it weird is, since I didn't get together with my brother yesterday because of the Mario Free Play thing, I didn't rewatch those episodes of those two Marvel Cinematic Universes movies that would be next. So I can't comment about those. Although I'm not quite sure what I would say, because we're getting closer and closer to present day, and as that happens, you know, it's just enjoyable stuff. But yeah, interesting stuff. But yeah, it's all stuff. So that's pretty much the summary. I guess I can't think of anything else I should talk about, so y'all have a nice week.